Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. This is episode 404. And I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, for all episodes of the show, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me, you can go to the podcast page, which is salcidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Also, that is just proof that this is a live stream as it is recorded. There is no editing here. So, anyway, always happy to hear from y'all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. And thank you for listening, whether you are here for the live streams or you listen on the podcast or YouTube feeds, or if you listen on the Troubled Minds radio network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. That is where you can hear two replays of the show, 2 episodes replayed of the show, 7 days a week as of now, and I appreciate everyone over there that helps make that possible. Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio. Liam Martin, host of the Exiled Minds podcast. Everyone that puts my show together, gets uploaded and all that, and adds all the music that you hear in the beginning and the end of every show. So, if you'd like to support the show, there are a few different ways to do that. You can always rate, review, and share the show on whatever platforms you choose. Also, if you're into paranormal fiction and or nonfiction books, you can find some of those that I've written on Amazon. And if you'd like to make a direct donation to the show, there are a couple of ways to do that as well, through links to those kinds of platforms. All that can be found in every episode description, along with the Discord and the podcast page. So tonight I am sharing true paranormal stories from the web, and I think with that I can get to those. So this first one here, as I click over to the file, this says, "This happened last night, and I have no idea how to explain it. So any help would be appreciated." And this is from a website, so anyway, this says, "I live in a well-known historic town in a densely populated area. It is in the southern part of the U.S. There is a one-lane back road that connects one side of the town to the other. One part of the road branches off into well-lit neighborhoods, while the other part is empty without any streetlights. I was coming home from visiting a friend in one of these neighborhoods, and I got onto this road. It was around 11 at night when I made it to the darker section of the road. Noticing something on my rearview mirror, I saw it was a single headlight behind me as I drove. It was right behind me, even though I was driving around 55 to 60 miles per hour, and it appeared to belong to a very old-fashioned car. I thought they must have pulled out earlier without me noticing them. I drove on until I came to a small curve at the end of the road, but the headlight never came up behind me, and there was nowhere for it to turn off along that stretch of the road. I stayed at the intersection for almost a minute before it was safe to get on the main road, but still, no headlight. It was as if it just disappeared. I was talking with my boyfriend the other day about after a sighting of another vehicle that appeared to just vanish, and we still can't explain what we saw." And that's the end of that story. So it sounds like maybe they live in an active area, whether it's through time slips, time anomalies of any kind. It's hard to say, but the fact that there's two sightings, and with the same person seeing both of those sightings, but then someone else being there for one of them. Excuse me. Tells me, at least as far as I can think anyway, that there must be something about that area that maybe there's some kind of energy levels there that allow for these strange things to happen. And I used to wonder about when people would see what appeared to be ghost cars, basically just like the writer described there, where it was a car, but then it vanished. Now, that's not technically a living organism. Doesn't have a spirit in the same way, as far as I know, that people or even animals do. So now whenever I hear a story like that, I wonder about more of some kind of either anomaly with time or possibly a residual image, just an energy field that appears to show that vehicle, maybe even going through the same route over and over again. And it's just a matter of how often the people are there to witness that. I wonder how often, if that person maybe stayed there or drove down that road more, if they would see that vehicle, that same vehicle again. So that's a question there, of course, no one knows, but no one knows the answer to, but that's what I think of when it comes to those kinds of sightings, where it's not just a sentient being of some kind that maybe had passed that was still there somehow. But again, that's just my thoughts. I don't really claim to know anything. But neat story there. And like I said, it makes me wonder if that area, what area that is. Of course, obviously, I always respect the privacy of the people that write these experiences down. So I would never want to press them on that. But I just wonder how active that area may be. But neat story there. And yeah, I don't know how to explain that one. But moving on to the next story here. Let's see here. Okay. Gotta scroll down. There we go. This one says, I've only had one paranormal experience. It happened when I was around 6 or 7 years old. Even so, it made me a believer in the unexplained. Even back then. I've never shared this with anyone outside of friends and family. I lived with my mother at the time. It says mother. I said mom, I don't know why. It says, our rooms were across from each other with a hallway in between them. I had a hamster that I kept in an aquarium instead of a cage. It sat between my bed and the door to my room. I always slept with the door open. One night I woke up, for some unknown reason, and sat up to look into the hallway. When I lay back down again, I saw something through the glass sides of the aquarium. When I sat up and looked in the same place, in the hallway, there was nothing. When I lay back down again, I saw it again. I repeated this action 3 or 4 times. What I saw was an older woman in a nightgown, but I only saw her when looking through the glass sides of the aquarium. She was just standing in front of the door to my room, but I wasn't afraid of her at all. So I lay back down and fell asleep again. Some time later, I asked my mom about the previous owners of the house. She said that an older woman had lived there just before us and had passed away of natural causes in the house. This makes me think that the previous owner is who I saw that night. I never saw her again, though. What I wonder is, why was I only able to see her through the glass sides of the aquarium? that's where the story ends, and that is a good question from the writer. Other than the fact that glass can affect light in different ways that I cannot describe because I'm not very good with science, but it sounds like it was acting almost like a mirror of some kind or a lens that the writer was able to see this figure through. And maybe she was really still there when he looked up out into the hallway, but for whatever reason, his own eyes and his own mind could not register it. Also, I apologize for any noises. Logan, my cat, is playing with one of her toys, and I can't really control that easily. So there you go, all kinds of noise. But yeah, I don't know how to explain that. Just it sounds like the glass was doing something, making it possible to see. And I mean, if you think about use for capturing images and video, they use lenses. Of course, those are a lot more. They're designed for that kind of thing. But I wonder about the sides of that aquarium. If there was, I'm guessing it'd be treated somehow. I don't know how. Again, aquariums, they're not my, I don't really know much about those either. But, yeah, just an amazing sighting there. And I'm glad that the writer pointed out they weren't really afraid. They just saw this, and then they were able to go back to sleep. I wonder if the reason they woke up was, even though they didn't consciously realize it, they were picking up on the presence of that former owner. Somehow, possibly even while they were asleep. Maybe, again, I do think that sleep and dreams and that other state of consciousness can allow for more communication, more contact with other levels of reality, and just other beings, other entities, other possibly even other people in other times. Maybe, but neat story there. I've heard of people seeing reflections, images, and apparitions and reflections like that, but I never heard of one that was seen through two panes of glass. Because that's what it would have been. It would have been the two sides of the fish tank. I'm guessing, anyway. And so I wonder how common that is. But yeah, so I don't know with that. That one's a neat story, neat experience, and again, since the writer never had an encounter again in that house, that's good in a way. That means, I think, either the older woman didn't mean to be disturbing the writer, or and so they were just able to the writer was able to sense them just for that time because of just the right set of circumstances, along with that glass and that aquarium. So moving on to the next story here. Let me see. I think I have to. Okay, this is a shorter one. This one says, I have a very vivid memory from when I was 5 years old that I cannot explain. In this memory, I sat on my bed, looking outside at the yard through a window behind the bed. I always saw 4 or 5 shadow figures, which seemed to be very tall, standing still in the yard. I remember sitting and watching them for hours until sunrise came. But I was never afraid of these figures. The strangest part of this memory and these memories is that there was not a window in that wall behind my bed. And that's where the story ends. So I'm wondering, was that some kind of a repeating dream that they had that was just one of those more paranormal dreams where it was somehow some level of reality that they were seeing. That window was somehow, uh, again, just something to do with their consciousness. It's really, I don't know what to make of that. If the window wasn't physically there, but then if the writer was, again, like somehow partially asleep, because they say that they sat there doing that for hours. Now, they don't say if they remember when the sun came up, they don't say they remember the shadow figures vanishing or the window vanishing. And again, I'm not saying this didn't happen or this wasn't real to them, or even that this wasn't real in any way. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I just wonder if it was some kind of astral experience, or I don't know, just something to do with that other, again, the what happens to our consciousness when we're sleeping, or going to sleep or coming out of sleep. And so that's an amazing story there. I do not know. I don't think I've ever heard of anything exactly like that before. These last couple of stories really are fall into that category. I've never heard anything exactly like either of those. And so yeah, I'm not sure how to. Like I said, other than just it being a some kind of experience while they were asleep, again, in some kind of an astral or dream environment where they still could have been picking up on other presences. I don't know how to explain that, unless their memories literally do just end with the time right before sunrise, and then somehow that window vanished. And of course, that might imply maybe possibly alternate realities somehow, some kind of parallel universe where there was a window there. Again, just so many options there, possibilities there, that it's hard to know what was going on there. But amazing story. I'm curious now to see if I'll ever find another story involving that, because that seems like, I mean, buildings being made in different ways. You hear about that more in dreams, but why couldn't they be slightly different from one universe to another, to where somehow this writer was able to either transfer or shift from one universe to another, again, maybe through sleep, maybe not, to where they were able to see a place where there was a window there. So anyway, I'm going on about that story because there's so many, that my mind is just going in all the different directions with it. I think I have time for this last story. Let me check on this again, and we'll go from there. Yeah, I think I can do it. All right. This one says, when I was around 12 years old, my family went to visit my grandparents in Iowa. While there, a cousin and I were using a spare bedroom that was rarely used. I woke up that first night there to see the room filled with moonlight. That is how I was able to see a girl or woman in a white nightgown standing on the bed. Frightened, as I was sure my cousin was still lying in bed next to me, I closed my eyes and tried to explain away what I had just seen. But my cousin was on one side of me, and this figure was on the other. Also, my cousin had dark hair and was wearing pajamas, while this figure had blonde hair and was wearing a nightgown. Still, I didn't have any glasses on, so I tried to tell myself that was behind the sighting. After what seemed like forever, I felt the bed shift, as if someone had taken 2 footsteps across it and toward the edge of the mattress. But I never heard any more footsteps toward the bedroom door. That morning, when we woke up, it was really foggy outside. My cousin asked me what I had been doing standing on the bed. She said it had frightened her. I told her that it wasn't me. We decided that what I had seen and what we had felt must have been a ghost. Hearing our conversation, the rest of the family told us that there was no such thing as ghosts. They seemed upset at the very idea. Either way, I still don't know what I saw that night. That's the end of the story. It's always I'm always sad when I hear that kind of a just automatic and angry dismissal of all these things, regardless whatever is going on. It just seems like it's just not the best thing to do. I think that's how part of how part of how the stigma is created against all these things is that people, whether they're saying it, families, whether they're saying it to so that the child isn't frightened, or they're saying it because it goes against their own ideas of how reality works. Whatever the reason, you're still, and especially if you're getting angry and making a big deal of it that way. I mean, I'm glad that the writer has shared their story, but who knows how many people have not shared experiences because of that similar kind of reaction to their experiences, to them either talking about or sharing their experiences with the family, with other people around them. So, I'm not a parent, so I can't really tell you all how I would suggest that you sort of handle the paranormal if it comes to kids, but I would just say just be careful and go with what feels right, to you, and that will do the least amount of harm to the kid, obviously, the child. So I'm going to stop there because I don't really have any experience with any of that, but that's one of those things that always bothers me when I hear about that. But getting back to just the experience of it in and of itself, that seems like whoever was there, if they didn't mean to get the attention of the writer and the cousin, then that's some unfortunate timing there. In terms of how this figure appeared to manifest. And again, who knows if it was a spirit or if it was I don't know if it could be a time anomaly or not. It seems like it was interacting physically with the bed for at least a moment. But yeah, amazing story there, and I'm glad the writer got at least some kind of confirmation from their cousin about the sensation of the bed being shifting beneath them as the figure walked to the edge of the bed. So yeah, I don't know how that one worked, but either this figure was trying to get their attention for some reason, which is hard to know why, or they weren't, and the writer and their cousin just happened to be present for some kind of paranormal event going on there. I had one more story here, but I'm going to have to save that for next time. Again, thank you all for listening, and looking forward to these next couple of shows. My plan is, as of now, the next one, which will be a day from now, will be a paranormal, or basically a horror book review show. I haven't done one of those in a while. I already have a book picked out, so that should be fun. And then I have a bonus show that will be happening on Friday. I will post all the details to that as it gets closer. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care.